All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Hey, Saurel.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Gio. Good morning.
I am excited about today's conversation. Today, we're going to dive into a critical conversation. If you have a company, if you work for a company, if you want to get a promotion, if you want to make more money, promotions give more money. This conversation is for you. Today, we're going to dive into the number one reason why most companies can't create an environment that people love to work for.
And it's not
Now,
that they don't want to.
go ahead. Yeah. Okay, you froze there a little bit, Sorrel. And I think you were saying, no, it's not that they don't want to.
No, it's not that they don't want to. People don't wake up. Bosses, employees don't wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to work real hard to create an environment that nobody loves and that people struggle to stay in. So intentions are good and people do work at it. And yet, over and over, the environment that gets created is an environment that people love and stay in. So why is that?
Yeah, one of the things that I like to say, Sorrel, as we're diving into this conversation, is that most of us that work, right? And I think everybody on this call works, and most people work, and that's what we do every day. And I don't know, 5 billion people wake up every morning to go to work, and this is how we sustain our livelihood, and some and it's just the way of life. We got to go to work. And at work, most people spend more time at work than at home. It's a little bit, it has shifted a little bit now that we have made it more comfortable and it is more reasonable to stay at home for some people. But for the majority of us, we spend more time at work than at home. So it would only make sense to make the environment at home, at work, I'm sorry, one that people would love to go to work. This is where their
Yeah.
entire lives unfold in many ways. This is where they get their relationships that are going to propel for the next job or for the promotion. And
And
most companies, go ahead, Sorrel, you wanted to say
you know,
something?
what you're pointing to is so critical because you could say that given that most people spend 8 hours a day working, that you could say at least a third of one's life is spent at work. But it's really more than a third because in the environment that gets created at work, where people are looking to be promoted, people are looking to make more money, people are looking for something that gives them their livelihood, right? There's an environment created where they learn and everybody knows you don't get to stay in this environment and grow unless you give more than is expected of you. So most people don't work 40 hours. They work 50 to 60. And that's a huge amount of time. So the onus is both on the people who are the owners of companies and the people who are employees in those companies to stand up for an environment you love to work in and to assist and help and participate in creating it. And so today's conversation is critical for that.
Yeah, so here's what I've encountered now that I get to run a company, and also when I used to work for a company, people or my managers or leaders, they tend to say things like, people are the most important asset, you know? And I believe that they really mean it. When they say that, they mean it. Yet at the same time, after they say that, then they say things like, well, everybody's replaceable here. And the humble ones would say, even I am replaceable here. Or they say things like, or maybe they don't say it, but people feel like a number.
Yeah.
Maybe they
Like
don't say it, but people feel that way. And
when I say
then,
I'm replaceable and I say people are replaceable, it's as if I'm looking as the owner of the business for the permission to treat you like a number and for us to have this silent agreement that it's okay. It's crazy, isn't it?
yeah, and we say, well, I mean, companies say, people say, business owners say, well, I'm paying you to be here. So just deal with it. This is how it is around here. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. And yet, the critical aspect of that is that in the big commitment for companies and for business owners is to make money, to save money. However, people that work for that company are the ones that are going to make the money or save the money.
Yeah.
And while at the same time, then there is this umbrella, this conversation, this umbrella that, like you caught it, this like you were saying it, this like silenced agreement.
Yeah.
If I pay you, then you gotta bring a good attitude. You gotta eat the sandwich, eat the milk, and smile. However, and I want you to be a high performer. And I want you to give your best because I'm paying you. And so employers and employees, inside of the context of I pay you, or if you're an employee, you should pay me more. Inside of that context, companies can create an environment for high performance.
Yeah.
So people, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say, in many organizations, Gio, fall for these three things. You know, I think as an owner, as a leader, that something as superficial as having ping pong tables, something as superficial as having a free lunch, something as superficial as giving you more money will make you stay. The superficial perks never work over the substance. And so there's this big disconnect. While I say that people are my greatest assets, I fall into the habits that leave me treating them like a number. And it leads to fear and a lack of trust that I struggle against and can't seem to get rid of over and over and over. So there must be a better way, given that we spend over a third of our time together at work. How do we create an environment that people love to stay in? And how do we create an environment that works to generate profit for the organization and profit for the families that it serves?
Yes. So here's what most of us do, or most companies do. Here's what they try to do. We'll put a poster somewhere with our mission statement or our core values. But and it's not like it's bad. It's not bad, it's not wrong. But here's something really important to connect to is that culture is built by conversations, not posters. Culture of high performance is built by daily interactions, not by a poster. Even though I like it when I go to a company and I see the mission statement. I really like that. I mean, it's a step in the right direction. I love it when I see the core values. However, it is the conversations, the daily conversations that are somehow connecting to that vision, connecting to that mission statement, connecting to those core values that are going to create the culture, not the poster itself. Because employees and managers and leaders were constantly surviving the daily activities. We're constantly surviving life. We're constantly surviving this inner battle of should and shouldn't, right and wrong, the competition inside of an environment. We're constantly doing that. And that without intentional conversations that reinvent people around the core values, around the mission statement, around the visions, without those constant conversations, without that, then people create an environment that normally people create an environment where people don't want to work for.
Yeah, and unless there are the posters, right? But unless as the leader I'm modeling the culture itself, I'm modeling what the poster says, I'm living by the mission statement, I'm letting the guiding principles that we put up there run my life, and I demonstrate that day in and day out, then it really is just a poster on the wall. And I'm asking you to be someone and do something because I said it. It's critical
Yeah.
that the leaders model the environment.
Yes.
What?
There was
Yeah.
a stat on Gallup for 2024
Yeah.
that the US only 30% of people in the work environment are engaged, making it the lowest level in a decade, and of employees, right? And about 20% of employees in the work environment are actually actively disengaged, meaning that they are emotionally disconnected and potentially harmful to the organization.
And looking for the next excuse to leave the organization. To be actively disengaged has that in it too, man. That's crazy. Like the
Yes.
very people who want to stay are actively looking to leave, while lamenting and really sad about the fact that they want to stay, but they can't stay. The environment has nothing that's keeping them there other than the paycheck and the resignation that if they leave, they won't have anything else to take care of themselves.
Yeah. So let's turn this around. Why does this happen? Why is this happening? Why is it so difficult for a company to create an environment that people love to work for? Why is it so difficult? Everybody, when they start, most people, when they start working, they're committed. They really want to be a contribution. Most people want to stay. They want to grow somewhere, you know? And then the environment inside of the organization begins to create the opposite. So
Yeah.
why does this happen? So I'm going to give you a theory. I'm going to give all of us a theory. We're going to give you a theory. Now, I want you to know that I'm not making this up. I've been poking around this beast for 15 years around the globe with hundreds of organizations at every working environment you could imagine, different industries. I lost count at this point. And even at some point, I worked probably for the top 5 company in the world on leadership development. And even on this company that I used to work for, this is what I found. This is what we found. And that is that there is an unconscious model for being a leader, unconscious. Like leaders don't know about this. an unconscious model for being a leader that people inherit, and it's running who they are as leaders. So I'm going to say it again, and then Saurel is going to say it differently, because I really want you guys to get close to what I'm pointing to, because likely you're doing it, and likely your boss is doing it, and likely your children are going to do it, unless you see it for yourself. The number one reason why companies can't create an environment where people love to work for is because human beings, you and I, leaders, are unconscious to a model of leadership they inherited, and it's running the show everywhere they go. Sorel, can you say it differently? Can you recreate it
Yeah.
differently so that it can
And
land?
yeah, and it's lending, Gio, and here's what I want to say about that. That model that Giovanni's talking about, Gio, you were being really generous that when you said it's likely that they're using it. It's not likely, and it's not something that we have to fix or make wrong. Just being aware of it makes you really powerful as a leader and really powerful as a company owner, a business owner, a team member who's looking to create an environment you love. What Gio's pointing to is that the way you speak is being given to you by this inherited model. The way you interact with each other is being given to you by this inherited model. The way you even think about people, the place you work for, and interpret what you hear is being given by this model. It gives you everything. It gives you the employee you are at work. It gives you the boss you are at work. It gives you wanting to create an environment that people love, and then being really devastated and disappointed that you're not. And the very thing that makes it impossible to create an environment that people love is the fact that this unaware inherited model is using you and running everything. So now, Gio, don't hold them too long. What is the model?
What is the model, right? So here's the model, and I want you to see it in your life. I want you to see that it's happening in your life, at home and at work. So here's the model. You and I, people, have inherited this model that in order to influence another, in order to cause behavior on another human being, I've got to dominate them, or I've got to avoid their domination.
Yeah. Now,
I've
pause a
got
moment on
to,
that one.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
You can see it. Have you ever been in a meeting and you're sitting there and somebody's running the meeting and you're thinking, what on earth are they doing? That's probably you avoiding their domination. And if you've been in a meeting and you open your mouth and you try to speak and somebody shushes you, that's them dominating you. And it happens ever so subtly, yet it happens every time. It is in the nature of a human being to influence another by dominating and also to influence by avoiding domination.
Yes. So here's another one, and I've seen it at the highest levels of leadership in the world. The other one is guilting and shaming. And I want to say that it is unconscious. Yeah, I'm not making anybody wrong here. It's a model that is unconscious, that human beings use guilt and shame to cause behavior on another, to influence another. And it's really easy to see it at home, and it's really easy to pretend it's not happening at work. People use different ways to guilt and to shame people to make sure they stay doing what they are supposed to do. The other aspect that is also inherited, it's a model. I want to really create a frame for this conversation. Like, we're creating a framework for an inherited model that you inherited to influence another human being. And the first one we said is dominate. or avoided domination, guilt or shaming, right? And justifying yourself what you're doing it, because you've got to justify yourself. Well, of course, I guilt you and shame you. If you weren't such a loser, I wouldn't do that. You know, if you would just do what you're supposed to do, I wouldn't be shaming you or guilting you, right? So it's a model we inherit. And the other aspect that it's really difficult to catch, but it's always there, but it's really difficult to catch, is to always look for what's wrong. You and I are always looking for what's wrong, for what's missing. And we justify ourselves unconsciously, because looking for what's wrong and looking for what's missing constantly allows us to progress. It allows us to make things better. However, if your environment, unconscious to yourself, unbeknownst to yourself, it's about looking for what's wrong, it's about guilting and shaming and avoiding and justifying yourself and dominating or avoiding domination. If your environment becomes that, guess what happens? 70% of people say, I don't like to work here.
Yeah.
And the other 30%, it's not like they're not doing that. They were able to create friendships. So they bring grace to the environment. Like, yeah, I know Saurel guilt me and shame me a little bit. Yeah, he's kind of dominating, or he's kind of like firm
But
about this.
Stacy's my good
But I
friend.
love him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love him. He's great. He means well. And so we have a friendship. So we bring grace to this environment. It's not like the environment is not happening. We bring grace to the environment, yet I have 70% of people who want to quit. And 20% of them are actively disengaging, actually trying to create gossip inside of the organization. So this is the number one reason why companies can't create an environment that people love to work.
That people love to work in.
No, what? So what do you do? No, what do you do? So what do you do if you're brave enough to see it and talk about it? See, I'm guilting you and shaming you now. What do you do? The first thing is to notice that it's there. Notice that it's there. And if you are a leader of your organization, go talk to your team and say, you know what I've been seeing? I've been noticing that we are afraid to give feedback. We are afraid to speak up. And I want to take responsibility that I could be the source of that. The way I've been leading this team probably leaves you afraid to give feedback. Probably leaves you afraid to create trust. When you allow yourself to do that, then people will begin to say what they need to say to create an environment that people love to work for.
And that's what it looks like to be modeling an environment that people love to work in. So you could say, at the risk, Giovanni, of oversimplifying it, given that this model runs everybody, runs everything, me, you, owners of companies, employees of companies, vendors, you name it, and given that it's always in action, maybe what it is to lead is to be doing exactly what you're talking about, to notice it, and then to say something about it without making yourself wrong, without making it wrong, and without making the environment the way it is wrong. And then to begin to like tiptoe or crawl even to say, gosh, you know what? I have been living my life running this company, being run by this model, and I've been unaware of it. And now that I'm aware of it, I'm challenged by actually behaving any other way. And I want all of you to know that. And I'm using this occasion to point to it, to begin to practice together, to learn to behave, speak, and interact with each other in a different way. So it's not what Gio's pointing to is not a fix, but what Gio's pointing to is a huge, immensely effective practice, the practice of noticing the model, using me, using others, creating the environment by default. The practice is then, once I notice it, to actually say something about it in a way that invites others to be practicing the same way. And then in that environment, I think Stacy wrote something in the chat saying it's not unlike friendships and romantic relationships where I can be open and vulnerable enough to admit that I'm being used by the model. And I can have the compassion that I don't have to make you wrong because you're being used by the model. It's kind of like the way we are as human beings. Well, what if we came together inside of that awareness and begin practicing a new way of speaking, a new way of being with each other, a new way of interacting, and that by default, well, not really by default, deliberately, we're creating together an environment that we love and that others can step into and love as well. So counterintuitive, but really the key to creating an effective environment where people stay.
Yeah, so this was a seed that we wanted to leave you with. Saurel and I have run programs that last 6 months. It's around this very conversation. So, so we certainly don't want to oversimplify this. We want to leave a seed for the opportunity of a new paradigm for thinking, right? A new place to come from. And Saurel, I know time is up, but I don't know if anyone will have any comment or buts or questions.
Or questions, actually, yeah. Let's open it up for a little bit of that.
Yeah, does anyone want to create something, say something? Yeah, buts, questions?
Michelle,
Yeah,
go ahead, Michelle.
go ahead, Michelle.
Grand Rising.
Hello, Michelle. It's been a
Hello.
while.
Hello. Yeah, good. I finally was able to pop on a Monday. In my workplace, though we're asked to give feedback, there's somewhat of intimidation, and supervisors, staff, we're afraid to speak up because the management, upper management, actually speaks to on the teleconferences. They really berate and speak to supervisors as if they're children. They're outright nasty and they bully. And oftentimes, so supervisors will talk, among themselves, or will say, can you believe he said that? And he's so disrespectful, but no one challenges it. Nobody says, hey, you can't talk to me like this. Or, I should be respected. Well, I will say something to them, not on a telecon, but I will say, one to one, like, I respect you and I speak to you with respect, and I want you to do the same with me. So it's a culture, and everyone is afraid that if they speak up, then they won't be promoted, or they're going to be moved to another office where there's more workload. So it's a toxic environment, and everyone, I don't know how you get beyond the fear of the repercussions that would come for you to honestly share your feedback.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's Michelle.
I'm
Thank you for sharing.
complete.
Yes, and it's what you're pointing to is it's not rare, right? It's precisely this is why we say, Saurel and I say, it's an inherited model, and it's across industries. And if we were going to work with your company, for example, we wouldn't tell the managers or the people, the upper managers who are using the telecom, don't do that. That's disrespectful. You guys are idiots. because it will be more of the same.
Right.
What we would do, right, is to point to them to discover what's running the show for them, what's using them. Why? Let's discover this inherited model. Where did we inherit? Where did we inherit that shaming and guilting will influence another human being? How did that come about? So that people could see it. And once people see it for themselves, they actually naturally find other ways to create norms and policies, and naturally they find it. But I really appreciate, Michelle, what you're pointing to, and hopefully you can introduce us to your upper manager and management, and we tell them that they're idiots. I'm kidding, Michelle. I'm kidding.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
But you know,
Thank you for
Jill,
being here, Michelle.
one of the things Michelle's pointing to is the pervasive nature of the model, right? It's so there that the very bosses who berate the supervisors are promoted because they're really good at berating the supervisors. And so the environment in the company becomes an environment where the way the model runs the company is the norm. People are promoted because they are in the norm. And both employees learn to survive it and managers learn to promote it, and the environment remains toxic. And what Gio's pointing to is the opportunity for people who are in the thick of it to actually see, oh my God, I always thought that was me, but it's not. It's this model that's hidden from me running the show. And if I can step away for a little bit and notice it, then I have access to speaking differently. I have access to interacting with you differently. And it's not a function of me respecting you. It's a function of me of discovering that, oh my God, I've never been here. It's always been something else running me like a puppet.
Yes, there's a lot to discover.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for opening up and sharing with us, and actually sharing how it is at work sometimes.
Thank you, Jill. Nice to see you all.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Ronald, last one.
It's a very interesting subject. So what I'm getting that out of this, when you mentioned the word domination, there's been a very subtle shift into corporate where there's a lot of women that get in the top, and there's also perception that women want things better. So in your research, in your stats, in what you guys are encountering out there, would you guys be sensitive to understand there's a gender aspect into this that makes it a little bit that I mean the word domination, or whether or not is it something that is totally innate, I guess in my environment, because one of the things I'm situating in my environment where I have a lot of women on top of me, and I have our percentage is very small. And we, in fact, a couple of times we got together and said, man, we ain't gonna win this battle. We just just go ahead and come in and do your thing. Things change. The thing is, things change like changing underwear real quick. Pop, 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 pop. So that's why I was just wondering, in your vision, is gender is playing anything in there? It's a tough question. I don't know how you guys can put it, but that's in my environment, I get to talk to a couple of guys, and it's like, yeah, we outnumbered, so let's just not fight this or do anything about this. What do
I
you
got
guys?
that. Thank you, Ronald. Yeah.
What do you guys see in this?
So here's what I say. Sorry, you want me to go first, or you want to go?
You go first.
Well, here's what I want to invite you, and this is a really great question. I'd like to invite you to look at the opportunity of the inquiry from a different paradigm. Women and men are both run by the same model: guilt and shame, dominate and avoid domination, make others wrong, justify ourselves, avoid responsibility. Same model. Now, the expression is differently. Men are a little more used to saying, well, if you weren't such an idiot, I wouldn't fire you. Men are more used to saying that, right? And women wouldn't necessarily say it that way. They will create an environment. It's a little bit more passive aggressive, right? It's a little bit more difficult to catch. It's a little bit more strategic, more thoughtful, way more smart than men are. I really believe that. Now, what I would say about creating guilt, shame, dominating, and avoid domination, it's not as like without like, did you see not recently the, I forgot his name, Pete something, the Secretary of Defense, blah blah blah, speech in front of the universe, calling the generals fat. You know, that's what men are used to, right? That was guilt, shame, right there. And he's free to do it. He's a guy, he's willing to do it. You guys can't be fat anymore, right? Guilt and shame. That creates a corrosive environment. That creates a toxic environment. And he's being run. I'm not making him wrong. He's being run by the inherited model: guilt, shame, avoid domination. I say, now this is not true, but I say that if a woman was to do that speech, she wouldn't have said that. She wouldn't have said it that way. It would have been differently. It would have been, created differently if we're going to discover the model. If we're going to discover the model. I've worked in environments where women are the bosses, and they're just not going to straight call you an idiot and you're fat and ugly. No, they're not going to do that. However, they're going to demote you. They're going to put you in a corner office at the bottom next to the cockroaches. See if you want to
Without a
stay
window.
without a window. See if you want to still stay here, right? Or something. Now I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm not picking neither a man or women. What I have discovered, Ronald, and what I really like about your question is that the model: guilt, shame, avoiding domination, right? Dominating others, making people wrong. That model, that inherited model, is across the board.
It doesn't have a gender.
It doesn't have a gender. The expressions certainly are different.
Got it.
The expressions are different. Now, I do want to say something just for my own opinion and my own self-expression, Ronald, and that I do think women are better at creating community. I do think that naturally, organically, women are better at doing that. In my own experience in working with men and women in the world, and but it's, I'm not saying that from a stats, but kind of, if you want to empower a community, empower women, But anyway, that's a different conversation, different Sunday.
I got it.
Right.
Well
Go ahead, Saurel.
Yeah, Ronald, thank you for the question. And I want to go on a different angle. When people hear this conversation, I'm always making something wrong, or people are always making something wrong, always guilting and shaming each other, and always dominating and avoiding the domination of others. I tend to look at this conversation as if it's not for me. It's for them, right? So I'm in an environment where there are a bunch of women leading me, and I'll say, man, we're outnumbered here, buddy. Let's go ahead and just do what we came here to do and go with the flow, right? Without noticing that you're actually in the model itself, avoiding the domination of the women running the place. Now, that's normal, that I'll congregate with others, commiserate with others to avoid the domination of, quote unquote, the dominators, whether they're male or female. this conversation that Gio and I are bringing to the forefront today isn't for us to look and see where guilt and shame and avoid domination, avoid domination, and something's wrong is running others, is to actually see how do I interact in such an environment? How do I avoid domination when I feel dominated? So the noticing that Gio was pointing to earlier, if you notice it and you don't guilt and shame it, and then you look and say, given that I'm being dominated and I look like I'm avoiding domination, how am I interacting with others? How am I speaking? What am I doing? That in of itself gets you in a position where you can be out of the trap of the model. Now, I'm saying this because I love you, Raul. And I'm saying this because I love people in general. And I think when people stop and look that way, you may have a different conversations with your colleague today. You may have a different way of looking at your leaders. And you may have a way of speaking that actually begins to transform the environment and leaves the environment open to high performance. If this conversation gives you a better look at how the model used the different genders, that's just cool. But if this conversation leaves any of you with the capacity to see how it's using you, then you've got the power to transform the environment. And I'm inviting you to take that on.
Got it.
That was awesome, Saurel. A little bit of coaching there. That was great.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Awesome.
I liked it. Thank you guys for the answer. That was pretty. I mean, I like the fact that, Gio, you truly proved that it was not gender driven, and the fact that it could be perceived. I mean, I have the luxury or the ability to have you guys, to support me on this quest, but some doesn't, and it's like I'll share with them, but hey, this is really interesting that it's not, you could see it as on a perspective that it's not driven by gender. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Great subject.
Yeah.
There, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Tell
Raul.
your friends, tell your colleagues that they could have more of this and really create an environment that works and that people love to work in.
Yeah.
Join the Leadership Huddle too.
Sure.
Saurel, Ronald, Michelle, Brenda, Coach Rashida, Claudia, Virtue, Molly, Sophie, Maria, Sangria, Sudhir Gupta. Everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you all of you who join us on YouTube. Subscribe and like and share with your colleagues and with your leaders. And see you guys next Monday. Now, here are 8 rules to live like a renegade and create a working environment that people love to work for. Here's the number 1: love. Love them. Love them even if they have an opinion different than yours. Just love. The second one is smile. Stretch your cheeks. It helps you to be sexy. It helps you with your wrinkles. It helps you with your hormones. It helps you with everything. Smile. Exaggerate. Laugh out loud like crazy. Laugh out loud. Eat more plant-based. Get closer to the trees. Hug the trees. Eat the trees. And avoid, at all costs, avoid processed food. At all costs, avoid it. It's bad. It's really bad. I didn't know how bad it was until I got so fat. I cannot be in the army anymore. I can't be a general anymore. Okay, I'm kidding. Sleep every day, a little bit, 8 hours. Move every day, a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, and check yourself before you wreck yourself. I love you. Saurel loves you more. See you guys next Monday. Bye.
I love you, Gio.
Be back. Love you back. Have a great day.